Hey everybody, welcome back to another tutorial here for importing different objects and things into the real flight simulator. So this tutorial we're going to look at adding different items into combining things and importing different objects from 3ds files that you may have gotten from somewhere, or it doesn't really matter where you got them, just any 3ds file that you want to modify or change or make it work for going into Real Flight Simulator. So specifically though, this one combines all of the texture files into one and also will combine different objects and merge, kind of like attach them together. We'll look at the attach feature a little bit as well. So let's just get started here. We're going to import our file here. Import, file import here. We're going to look for our tutorial directory. This is the 3ds file here, and so specifically this one we going to want to get the nest out of this tower and put it into our other tower. So we're going to completely replace the current scene. It doesn't really matter because it's a blank screen anyways. And what we're going to do is a great tower here. This is the nest that we want to get out of here. So I will maximize this. So pretty much we want to delete all the rest of it. We can see here that it's listed here, so the telecommunications tower is listed there. If you need to figure out which of these objects are which, all the rest of these are headers, all those, and then these are the actual objects. So you can click on it and realize that, oh, that's part of the tower. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all these, and then the nest items start here. So we're going to select those, delete, press the delete key, and then what you just start doing is press and delete on all the headers, and it'll pop all the nest elements out from underneath the headers, and then you can just continue to go all trigger finger happy on the delete key for the rest of these headers. So now we have just the nest elements here, but they're all listed in each individual polygon. Well, maybe not each. Some of them contain multiple polygons and weird combinations of stuff. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So we want to attach all of these so that they're all one object, so that we can work with them better and so that they can actually be imported later into real flight, because you need to have one object with one texture file to import it into real flight. So we are going to select all here, click drag box around there, right click on the object and click convert to editable poly. So now each one of these blocks has the editable poly modifier. You can click on any one in here, it doesn't matter which one you click on. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the edit geometry here on the right hand side under the modifiers. Go to attach, and the attach list, which is right beside there, open that up. Comes up with a whole list of every object in there. We're going to select all. So I'm going to hold down the shift key, select it, and this will merge everything into one object. We don't really care about material IDs right now, so I'm just going to select do not modify IDs. We're going to change all the materials here in a little bit because I have the pictures that we're going to map to the different polygons here, or supposedly the way it was intended to be. I think so. All right, so now that we have one object, we're going to rename this nest. And before we start adding the texture with materials here, we're going to remove all the previous ones. So go under here under utilities, click more, UVW remove, and go ahead and remove materials. And you know that they're all removed when you can change the color by selecting this box, and you can change it into whatever color you want. So just click blue just to change it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to open up the material editor so that we can add our 3 materials. I'm going to press the M button on my keyboard, or you can press this button up here. Either one opens up the same thing. This is the slate viewer, and I'm just going to do it in here just because it's a different version for 3ds Max, the latest version. So you can get used to it now, but it still has these circles here for the slots. So we're going to create the first material. We'll call the first material the bottom one. I'll just rename it bottom of the nest. We're going to have 3 here. There's going to be the bottom, top, and sides. Now there's a couple ways you can add the picture here. You can either go to double click on bitmap here, or you can use this. I'll show both ways here. So I'll just do this way first. Double click on the bitmap, and then go to the place where you have the bitmap at. And we're going to make this the bottom, so I'm going to select the bottom picture, open it, and then connect these dots to the diffuse color. Cool. All right, and so we're going to do the sides now. Now the other way to, I'm going to rename it first. The other way to do it is to, when you double click on it, this edit box pops up, and you can click on the add here, and you can click on bitmap again. Okay, and it'll still come up here, and so you can select side. The nice part, I guess, is that it automatically does that instead of you having to connect the dots. Yeah, if you want to save you and one extra click, go ahead and do it that way. I guess you have to double click on it. You have to double click on it to rename it anyways, so I don't know if it really saves you a click. Anyways, I don't think it really does. I don't know, multiple ways to do it. So many different ways to get what you want here. Alright, so this is going to be the top. And add that into diffuse. And so now we have our 3 materials. So I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and we can change it around once we see, but we want to select which polygons apply to which materials here. So I'm going to go out on a limb. We're talking about nests on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that all the bottom polygons, oops, I gotta go back to my modifier here and select the polygon, but all these ones on the bottom here, oh, I'm not in, looks weird because I'm not in orthographic. I change that to orthographic. There we go. All these ones here are probably mapped to the bottom picture. So I have all these selected. I'm going to make sure that nothing else accidentally got selected. Okay, we're good. And I'm going to right click on the material here and click Assign to Selection. Great. All right. Now there's nothing there as of yet, and that's because we can select an option here to show them. So under here, under Standard, you can click on that and go to Materials, Shaded Materials with Maps. I found out puts that on there. And there you go. It looks like the bottom of a bird's nest. Good job. So the next one, we're going to select all the sides here. I find it easier to turn on the wireframe override and then select here. So got the polygon selection tool up. I'm going to drag and click over all these corners of things. I just don't want to select anything on the top or in the middle. So I'm just going to keep rotating this around. Oh, there we go. Okay. And also these ones on the bottom. I'm going to add these. So another cool feature I found out, if you accidentally select a wrong polygon that you don't want, say I do this, I don't want to select that one for the material, all you have to do is press the Alt key and then click it and it'll deselect it. But you press and hold the Control key if you want to add, and you the Alt key will subtract. Cool. All right, so we got all our sides selected. I'm going to open up the material editor again, and we're going to right click on the sides and assign material to selection. Cool. All right, last but not least, we're going to do the top. Now this one, I'm going to click ignore backfacing because I'm just going to click and drag over the whole thing on the top here. Try not to get any of the sides. Ignore backfacing will just make sure it doesn't select any of the bottom panels that are behind things. Alright, so I got the whole top selected here. And I'm going to right click, top, standard, assign to material. Alright, let's see how this looks. So I'm gonna just turn it back onto default shading. And maybe I just have to reset this. There it goes. Okay, good. Alright, so we can see in here that the original person that designed this mapped these polygons obviously to something else. So for the benefit of the tutorial, although it looks like these are correct. So like this polygon is correct, but these four the whole way around were mapped to a different image. So we can pretty much give a good guess by going into a tool called the Unwrap UVW, which we're also going to use later in the tutorial. But for now, what you do is deselect this just so you have the nest selected. Go into the modifier list, scroll all the way down to Unwrap UVW. It'll highlight all the edges in green, and that means it did it properly. You can open up the UV editor here, and this allows you to see where the polygons are mapped to. So if I want to find like the image, so these are all the polygons. There's actually some polygons down here. These are all the polygons that are in this image, and it shows how they're all laid out in the image. But let's actually pull up an image here in the top right. You can pull up any of these images that we have mapped. So if the top, this is the top one that the original person used to map, and so you can see that these ones out here, so if we click on that, that's that one, and so that's why that one's gray, is because it's outside the image. And that's the same for all these out here as well. So if we go into here and let's the side, I'm guessing that's not the correct one, so that leaves the bottom. Yes, the bottom encompasses all of these, so my guess is that's what the original designer wanted. So we're just going to change that material of those polygons to the bottom material instead. So we're going to remove this so that when we go back and edit the poly, it won't give us any errors or warnings about like, oh, you're going to change the unwrapping to. It just makes life easier. Okay, so let's go to polygon selection tool again. I'm going to add the edge faces here just so I can see where I'm doing. I'm going to hold down the control key and we're going to select these top four the whole way around. I know this looks fine, like pretty sure you can still tell that it's a bird's nest, but you know, just for best quality sake. Okay, I'm going to then open up my material editor. We're going to try the bottom, so I'm going to right click on that, assign material to selection. And let's see how that looks. Well, you know, I still think it looks fine. All right, good enough. So now we got, I mean, it looks like a nest, right? With an egg in it. So you can also, I guess, map these polygons to something like the bottom again, if you wanted to get rid of the egg. So that would be a cool variation that I'll probably do as well. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back to that Unwrap UV editor. The main thing is though to make sure that you have the object here looking the way you want it to. So all the polygons have an image on them, a texture, even what material, whatever it is. It looks the way you want it to. So now we're going to go into the unwrap UVW. Modifier list, unwrap UVW. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of like create another flattened image of this thing using this tool, the unwrap UVW, but we're going to change it to channel 1, or channel 2. I'm sorry, we're going to change the channels. And what that does is we'll change it to channel 2 so that way that we can create a separate type of texture file that we can use to create a all-in-one image instead of these 3 images that we have. So right now channel 1 is the 3 images that we put in. So we're going to create a channel 2 that just has all of this combined into one. And this warning comes up. It says one channel at a time. You've chosen a new channel. Would you like to? We're just going to click move because it works. I don't know actually what it does. And now we're going to go into the UV editor again. And what we're going to do is zoom out and make sure that the polygon selection tool is on and the ignore back facing is off here in the modifier list. And then select everything. Okay, so everything should be selected. If you don't get everything in on it, like if you don't zoom out and catch everything, or maybe you zoom out and there's like something over here, I don't know. But make sure you get all the polygons in, and then go up to mapping and click flatten mapping. The default settings here are okay. And this is what puts it all on a flat image here, all in one. It'll save all the textures to this square image. And that's what we want because that's what we need to have for real flight. Now, we're not quite done yet. We need to now apply that to a texture file. So what we're going to do is we're going to click rendering, and we're going to render this texture to the file. So now that we created this in 3D Max, we're going to create the actual picture of that. So you can also press 0 too off your keyboard, and it'll bring up this dialog box. So up at the top here, the output settings, you can click the thing. Right now I have it set to our tutorial directory, but you can put it wherever you want. The next one you need to worry about is objects to bake. Make sure that your object here is selected. So I have nest selected here. That's good. If you had it selected opening it up, it'll automatically, but you can click on it after you open this up anyways. Here padding of 4 is about good. This adds extra imaging past the vertex, or past the edge by like 4 pixels or something like that. So apparently 4 will get rid of any open cracks or something like that in the imaging. It's a good number, I hear. So here's the key though. Click under mapping coordinates. Make sure we have channel 2 because that is the all-in-one image that we just created. We want to map that one. Under the output, we want to make sure that we add a diffuse map. All the rest of these, well, we don't have any of these other ones, I don't think, except for a complete map. And a complete map, I tried it, but it keeps the shadows. So if right now in the view, if a cell is black, it'll print it as black. Well, we don't want that. So diffuse map, that's what we mapped all our pictures to. That's what we want. You can change here what type you want. TGA is what real flight is going to accept, so I'm just going to keep it as that. We may have to change the name later, but that's fine. We'll figure out what it exports as later. Now the element background color, you want to change this to the most common color in the object. So right now it's brown because it's a nest. If it was the other tower, I may do a gray or something like that. It's not going to show the background color, but if there was some error or something in the processing, I don't know, and maybe the padding wasn't enough, at least it will show brown instead of some like black or white crack or something like that. Oops. Diffuse map. Yeah. All right. 256 is really small, so we're going to increase that. We can do the highest quality. That works for pretty much everything. I don't think it'll slow down any rendering. And then also make sure we click this render to files only, so that we actually save a file of it instead of actually rendering it to the textures or the elements as well. After you do that, You can click render. All right, now in this picture, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of black spaces where there should be elements. This is because this is a complete map, but it is not the one that actually got saved to the file. So I'll open up our tutorial directory here. This is the one that got saved. And let's open that up. And you can see here that there actually is texture on every polygon, unlike what you see in here. There's black. This is a complete map. This is the diffuse map. All right, so we don't need this anymore. And close down that. Now we have to apply that new diffuse map to the object that we just made. We're going to do that by creating yet another material in the material editor. So either click this button or press the M button on your keyboard. We're going to slide on down here. We're going to find an empty slot, number 4. And we're going to rename this all in one. I don't know, you can name it whatever you like. Whatever floats your boat. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add the bitmap that we just created. Diffuse map. We're going to connect that. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the unwrap UVW modifier here. We can now set the channel back to 1. And it'll give us that same warning again. We're just going to click move again, just because it works. And you'll see that because we still have it mapped to the 1, 2, and 3, it kind of messed up everything. But what we do is we select everything. Again, it's already selected, but we say assign material to selection. And you say, oh no, Daniel, it got all gray again. Well, you have to do is you just go back up here and select the materials again with the maps. Bam! You got exactly what we had before, but now you can delete all the rest of these old 3 files because you have just this one going to it. And that is what we want. Now we can take this file, we're going to save it as a max file, and then we're going to later, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import it later into another file. You can merge it with other max files, and then you can use the same process to combine everything and finally get the one object that you want so that you can put it into RealFlight. So I'll have other tutorials on that as well. So stay tuned and thanks for watching.